This week, today's homeowner is going green on a shoestring. We'll look at some simple changes you can make to your home and your lifestyle that will help preserve the planet's resources and make the most of your household budget. Sometimes in the rush to categorize things, we label something a trend when really it's a legitimate concern that does need to be addressed. That's unfortunately become the case with environmental issues in the recent years. Anything that addresses this topic is often labeled as part of the green trend. That's especially true in the home building and home improvement industry, where environmental impact is an issue with so many products and materials. Well, trends come and go, but I believe that green is more than a trend, especially when it comes to our homes. With that in mind, we want to give you some ideas to help you live green that add up to more than just a list of green products that you need to buy. There are some good ones out there, and hopefully there will be a lot more as the idea of green living gets more traction in our society. But what we want to focus on this week are some simple ideas to change the way you live today so the world will be a better place tomorrow. Earlier this season, we started including a new segment called Thinking Green in each episode of today's Homeowner. And that's exactly what this show is all about. Small changes in the way we do things that add up to big changes in water and energy efficiency, the conservation of natural resources, and the improvement of air quality. Now, speaking of air quality, Jody has a great tip to improve it inside your home.
Sometimes the simplest solutions are also the most effective ones, and that's especially true when it comes to keeping the air inside your home clean. While there are lots of complex devices and systems being created every day to do this job, you may already have one of the most effective ones right here in your home. The houseplant. How easy is that? If you paid attention in science class back in middle school, you already know that plants convert carbon dioxide into oxygen through photosynthesis. That's a plus since we all breathe oxygen. But what you might not know is that many houseplants also filter out harmful chemicals from the air. Houseplants are great at this because most are tropical species that have adapted to survive in low-light areas. That makes them very efficient at capturing light and processing the gases they need for photosynthesis. So they tend to absorb more gases, including the harmful ones. Things like benzene and formaldehyde are sometimes given off by building products and home furnishings over time. Today's greener products may reduce the use of such chemicals, but unless you're building a new home or getting the one you have, that's only a small help. Several of these guys may just be the answer. Philodendrons like this one, or even a spider plant, English ivy, or bamboo palms, these are just a few of the varieties that can do the best job at filtering the air. 2 or 3 of these in the average size living room will make a big difference, not only for the decor, but in the quality of the air you breathe.
Even though most of those plants Jody talked about require very little light, if you have plants, you'll want some natural light, and that's another area where you can make smart green choices. How often do you walk into a room and turn on the light without even thinking about it? In many homes, there's enough natural light during daylight hours that we don't even need electric light. If you choose the right window treatments that don't block out the light, you can even maximize that effect. Now, things like shades and blinds can be pulled almost completely out of the way, and even when they're closed for privacy, most still transmit some light through to the interior of your home. In fact, managing natural light is also a good way to help regulate your home's temperature without using any energy at all. During the daytime in winter, open up those blinds or shades, especially on the west or south facing windows, so the sun can help heat up the interior. At night, you can close them to retain some of that solar heat and the kind of heat generated by your furnace. In warm weather, that same solar heat gain can be a bad thing, adding a load to your air conditioner if you have one and making you a lot less comfortable if you don't have one. To remedy the situation, you can reverse the process we just talked about and close the blinds during the daytime, but then you lose the natural light and the view. Now, changing your windows to new ones with low-E coatings is one option, but honestly, it really doesn't fit with our green on a shoestring theme. But adding solar window film to your existing windows is a much less expensive way, and it offers similar results. Now, these films are applied to the inside of the glass, usually with a water-activated adhesive, but they work to block or filter the sun's rays coming through from the outside. That means a big reduction in solar heat gain without blocking or obstructing your view. Another really green way to solve this problem is to plant a shade tree adjacent to the south or west facing windows. If you choose a deciduous tree, the kind that lose their leaves in the winter, your windows will be shaded in the summer and free to collect the sun's warmth in winter.
No, don't worry, I've not started cooking segments here on Simple Solutions, but I am using the microwave for home cleaning tip for greasy kitchen cabinets. Now the challenge is how to get the grease off the cabinet without affecting the finish. If you use a harsh cleanser or an abrasive powder, you can actually ruin the finish on the door itself. Here's the trick that I've discovered that works really well. Take a sponge and dampen it with a little water, then microwave it for maybe 30 or 40 seconds. And be sure to wear rubber gloves because it comes out pretty hot and steamy. Now I'm going to use this in conjunction with some cleaner that has orange oil in it. Now the combination of the orange oil, which has citrus in it, which really cuts the grease, and the hot sponge will get the door clean in no time. Now after you've done this, you want to make sure you do the frame of the door itself too, especially up here high. And then just wipe it down with a paper towel. Now it might be hard to see on camera, but the door is absolutely squeaky clean at this point. And now you've removed all the grease and used only half the elbow grease.
This week we're looking at ways to go green on a shoestring. You know, little changes you can make without a big investment that will add up to make a real impact when it comes to preserving resources and protecting our environment. Earlier, Jody showed us how plants can help improve the air quality in our homes, but many people regularly overlook one of the best opportunities to improve indoor air quality, the return air filter for their furnace or air conditioner. If your heating and cooling system is working like it should, all the air in your home will pass through this thing at least 4 times per hour whenever the system is on. A good quality air filter only costs just a few dollars more than the cheapest one, but instead of only catching about 15% of airborne pollutants like the cheap ones do, the best ones will stop as much as 99%. So look for HEPA or carbon filters and those with electrostatically charged fibers for the best results. Then change these filters regularly, about once every 3 months. This will not only keep the air cleaner, it'll also allow the blower in your system to work less, saving a lot of energy dollars. You can also shave some fat from your heating and cooling budget by simply adjusting the thermostat a few degrees down or up. Keep your sweater on inside in the winter and use ceiling fans during the summer. Every time you do this, you'll be saving energy and money. Now, to make the most out of the air you heat or cool, be sure that the perimeter of your home is properly sealed. Check for any gaps or cracks around the outside of your home and be sure the weather strip around doors and windows is in good working order. Now, even if you have a newer home, it's also a good idea to check the insulation in your attic or basement. The Department of Energy has specific recommendations for insulation levels in all regions of the country, and you can check out our website at DannyLipford.com for the most current information. Making sure your insulation levels are where they should be is one of the easiest ways for homeowners to maximize their home's heating and cooling efficiency. While you're at it, it's also a good idea to check any heating and cooling ducts that run through these spaces to be sure that they're completely sealed. A few dollars worth of foil tape and duct mastic will save hundreds of dollars worth of conditioned air that would otherwise be wasted.
Speaking of wasted energy, there are some really simple changes you can make to everyday household chores that will collectively save a significant amount. And when it comes to chores, the kitchen is certainly king. Think about this, when you're making a meal and you turn on several stove burners and then maybe even the oven too, you're using a lot of energy. So try using a slow cooker more often. These things use much less energy and a lot of recipes can actually be adapted to work with them. By the way, when you're getting your ingredients, try to open the fridge and get everything all at once, because all of that opening and closing just wastes energy left and right. Now when it's time to clean up, don't bother with pre-rinsing the dishes before they go in the dishwasher. Believe it or not, a recent Consumer Reports test found that it just isn't necessary and it wastes as much as 6,500 gallons of water per year. And while we're on the subject, your dishwasher actually uses less energy than it takes to wash a sink load of plates by hand. So go ahead, use it guilt-free. Just be sure to wash full loads. Speaking of that, you've probably also heard that you should only wash full loads of clothes too. Well, you're right, and you should also use cold water whenever possible because it makes a big difference. But did you know that when you're drying clothes, you should be careful not to overload the dryer? The clothes will take longer to dry, using more energy in the process. And if you don't clean out the lint screen regularly, your dryer can use up to 30% more energy just to get the job done. Of course, if the weather cooperates, the most energy efficient way to dry your clothes is on the line in the sunshine.
Even if you don't use hot water to wash your clothes, your water heater still gets plenty of use. But there are a couple of easy ways you can reduce energy consumption here. First, lower the heater's thermostat down to, say, 120 or even 115 degrees. And wherever you have access, insulate the hot water pipes that are going to your faucets inside the house. Now, these things alone can reduce your energy bill as much as 5%. And to make your water heater a little more efficient, 2 or 3 times a year, drain a bucket full of water from the drain valve at the bottom of the heater. You'll be removing all of the sediment and hard water deposits that build up in the bottom of the tank and reduce its efficiency and capacity. Now let's check in with Jody for a green best new product.
You may have heard this before, but many experts are calling mold the next asbestos just because of the health hazard and financial threat it poses. Mold can cause sinus infections, allergies, and asthma. It can also damage your possessions, discolor your home surfaces, and in extreme cases, damage structural stability. Quite often, chemical cleaners with bleach or ammonia are used to get rid of the mold, but the problem is that these same chemicals are toxic to us too. So, how do you get rid of the mold? Well, the makers of Concrobium Mold Control right here may have the answer. It contains no bleach, ammonia, acids, or volatile organic compounds. In fact, it was given the lowest toxicity rate possible. In addition to killing mold, it's also an approved mold prevention solution. And since it's odorless and has 0 VOCs, you don't need extra ventilation. Just spray the affected area and allow the product to dry to kill the mold or protect an area against an outbreak. For small areas, it comes in a 32-ounce spray bottle for just about $10.
This week we're considering ways that you can make your household more green on a shoestring. And so far we've looked at some simple ways to improve the air quality throughout your home and small changes that can make a big difference in terms of the energy you use as well as the utility bills you pay. Another great way to keep down household costs and conserve resources is to reuse or recycle materials. By now, most of us know about recycling. We separate our old newspapers, soda cans, and plastic bottles from the rest of our household trash and take them to a recycling center, or maybe you put them out by the curb in a special container for pickup. This is a great way to conserve resources because the recycled material can be used instead of harvesting or mining new materials. That also preserves the energy that was initially needed to acquire those materials, but it doesn't necessarily preserve the energy used to make them. For example, the plastic you recycle has to be melted down again before it can be used to make something new, like, say, a new car bumper. It's great that it doesn't wind up in the landfill or that less material is needed to be mined from the ground, but it would be even better if it could be used in its current state or something closer to it. That's what reuse is all about, and our homes are a great place to do it. This is a reuse or salvage store. This one happens to be run by the local Habitat for Humanity, but there are thousands of operations like this all over the country. Some are run by charitable organizations like this one, while others are operated for profit. The thing they have in common, though, is that they take household goods and materials that otherwise would be trashed and they sell them at a deep discount to be used again by someone else, sometimes for the same purpose, sometimes for a different one. The important thing is both the raw materials and energy used to manufacture them into, say, a cabinet are preserved. This cabinet came out of a recent bathroom renovation, and now it can be reused in another bathroom somewhere with a fresh coat of paint or put to work for storage in someone else's garage or workshop. That sounds familiar. Now, in the case of demolition, even the lumber used to frame a building can be salvaged and reused. In fact, some of the coolest looking wood floors I've ever seen were made from reclaimed lumber. The point is that with a little work, old things can have a new life, even if they aren't considered antiques. An old wood door might become a great new headboard. An old window can be a great new wall hanging. The only real limit is your effort and creativity.
Danny's right. There are some cool things you can do with reused materials, but one of the easiest ways to conserve resources is not to use them in the first place, especially when it's not absolutely necessary. For example, this plastic water bottle will be recycled so the materials in the bottle can be reused. But what if it were never made in the first place? Americans spend billions of dollars every year on these things. And the interesting thing is that in many cases, what they're getting is no different from the water from a faucet in their own home. Read the labels on some bottled water and you're going to see that many come from a city's municipal water supply, in spite of the fact that there's a picture of a glacier or a mountain spring on the front. Now, if you're concerned about the taste or quality of the water in your home, well, invest in a good quality water filter. If you do the math, it makes much better economic sense than buying dozens of these, and you eliminate the need to manufacture, transport, and recycle the bottle. Since we're on the subject of water, let's talk about how you can conserve it at your house. Now, you may not think that one home can make much of a difference, but an average U.S. family of 4 uses almost 150,000 gallons of water every year, and very little of that is for drinking. Start with your daily grooming habits. Change them. You can turn off the water while you brush your teeth or shave. You can take shorter showers. I know I wish my daughter would. The next thing to look for is leaks that constantly waste water. That little drip from a leaky faucet can quickly add up to thousands of gallons of water if you don't correct it. A new washer only costs a few cents. It takes just a few minutes to replace, so put that on your list for this weekend. And while you're at it, check the toilets for leaks. A toilet that constantly runs can waste up to 20,000 gallons a year, but you might never know it, so check. Just drop a little food coloring in the toilet tank. If the color leaks down into the bowl, you may need to replace the flapper at the bottom of the tank. If water's constantly running into the overflow tube, well, inside the tank, you just need to adjust that water inlet valve, which is either on top of the tower or right at the bottom of the tank. Now, if you want to save some water in the shower without giving up any time, Danny has a great solution in this week's Thinking Green.
Did you know that showers account for 22% of individual water use in North America? Just imagine how much water could be saved if all the showers had low-flow shower heads installed. The newer models are 10 times better too because they help reduce water waste, but they don't sacrifice any water pressure. In fact, some of them are so good you may not even know if you have one. Here's a simple test you can do before spending money that you don't have to. Take a 2-quart saucepan and place it on the floor of your shower right in the center of the shower stream. With the shower running at full force, count how many seconds it takes to fill the pan. If it's less than 12 seconds, you need a low-flow shower head. Now, these will cost you anywhere from $8 to $50 depending on style, features, and the manufacturer. Handheld models will be just a little more expensive. This week we've been covering some great ways to make your home more green on a shoestring. These are the kinds of things that cost very little or nothing at all, but can help make a real positive impact on the environment. The beauty of it is that in many cases, they will also have a very positive effect on your household budget, and no one will complain about that. Really, the biggest demand they put on you is your attention to the way your home works and to the way you live. Even though we haven't talked about any major changes this week or shared with you any new cutting-edge green products, the things we've talked about are very worthwhile. The lifestyle changes will show us all exactly how our actions really do affect our environment, and it helps us gauge our level of commitment. If we make the small changes, the big changes will come. Hey, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. What does every home need? More storage. Next week, we'll show you some great ways to get it.